natural areas in Canton. And that will be $20,000 each year for the next 4 years. So she's really excited about that. And she's going to be heading up the ongoing planning for ongoing maintenance and management of those two sites. Um, Also, Wayne County Wild Ones is represented in the Save the Sibley Prairie Coalition. You've heard about that. And myself and Lisa attend the meetings on that, although we didn't make today's meeting. And Wayne County Wild Ones is also represented in the State of the Strait Steering Committee. And that's a Canadian-US effort on environmental concerns involving both countries along the Detroit River and the Great Lakes. And this year, their topic is wildscaping. If anybody knows of anybody who would like to speak at the breakout sessions, they're still looking for keynote speakers, as well as getting speakers for breakout sessions. And we're also planning on participating in the iNaturalist City Nature Challenge. It is a huge global effort to get people out and catalog the various fauna around them. And we thought that'd be an excellent activity for the Wayne County Wild Ones members to get outside and start recording, things that are going on in their yard or the local parks and things like that. That's insects, that's trees, that's animals, all things. And those are used by researchers for generally to determine the spread of different animals, insects, and plants. And there's been several reports over the past year that people have discovered or have recorded insects that were once thought to be extinct or extirpated in the areas. So it's pretty cool. And it's just an effort to get our members outside and get them involved in nature. Let's see. Also, I'll be sending out an email soon. We're looking for volunteers for yard tours. If you've had a yard tour, if you hosted a yard tour in the past, you can host one again. We have new members since then. I'll be hosting my yard this year. 2025 for me last year was a lost year and everything was a mess, but things are coming along great and I think my yard will be ready. But we're looking for others. And I love these because every yard tour I've been on, I get ideas from the hosts, from people who are participating. And that's plants that I don't have in mind, pollinators that I may not have that I look and, they're covered with bees and butterflies and things, or just ideas on displays and things like that, ways to communicate to other people what you're doing. So we're looking for hosts on that. And it's not like a typical garden walk that you may have had with your local garden clubs. There's no preparation necessary. It is come as you are, and your yard will be as it is. So I'll send out a link or a note, and you just reply back. If there are no other questions, Lisa, do you have anything you want to add? Mike?
As far as the grant work for the club is going, I'm preparing a web page that we can host on our site to provide information to the membership about grants that are available, people who are involved, people who want to sign up to work under different activities for different activities and things of that sort. So that's going to be under construction here this month. I hope to get with Derek and get that published by the end of the month, so we can communicate the goings on with grants or grant proposals.
That'll be a great addition. And if people haven't been out to our website lately, please visit it. Derek's put a lot of new content, great content on it. So please check it out. Yes, Lisa.
Yeah, so just the Simply Prairie committee, that's more Evan than me.
Ah,
So
okay. I try to make them all just find out what's going on. Currently, they're collecting donations to buy that. How big is that tract of land? Is that
it's 400 some acres. Thank you for everyone who has made donations or shared about information. They're gonna have some posters that they're gonna share that you can spread the word. So
they're still looking for donations. They need the money to buy that land, and it's heavily impacted all around. There's development going on all around that area. And once it's lost, it can't come, there's no getting it back. So we want to save it for perpetuity. And if there's no other questions, we'll get started. Again, my title of my presentation tonight is My Journey with Native Plants, Landscaping, and Lessons Learned. A little bit about myself. I'm a Navy veteran, yay Navy, yay submarines. I've been a Livonia homeowner for 38 years. We were only planning on staying 5 and then moving on, but we like it. Former master gardener. I probably know more former master gardeners than I know current master gardeners. I'm a retired IT professional. I spent my entire career after the Navy in some form of technical IT role, or I ended up as account management in IT. And I was originally came up as a conventional gardener. When you look at people involved in sustainable landscaping and native plants, it's a broad spectrum. You have people like myself who've come up from conventional gardening. You have people who are certified stewards who might not even have a garden in their yard. And then you have naturalists who, certified naturalists. We have both all types in our group that we're really fortunate on having. So, and I've been a Wildlands member since 2010. So what's that, about 15 years? Almost going on 16 years. Wild Ones promotes and uses native plants through local and national education programs. There's currently over 130 chapters in the United States. Most of them are in the eastern half of the United States, but they have they have a couple in California, a couple in Texas. And those are two tough states to get a foothold in, because both California and Texas have very strong native plants societies and organizations. So it's especially the one that's in Texas now. They're having a hard time getting going because the Native Plant Society down there is so strong. People are asking, why do we need you? Wayne County Wild Ones, on the other hand, has 88 active members currently. We've been kind of flat over the past year. So members, please ask your neighbors, ask your friends, bring your friends and neighbors to our meetings or our different events, and get them involved in Wild Ones. But looking at the chart, you'll notice along the east side, in the Grosse Pointe areas, we have a couple, when I did this distribution list, I noticed a couple things. We have a strong corridor along the eastern side there. And also in the Plymouth Canton area, we have a large node there. And now they have a couple natural areas in Canton that we kind of strategically build out from. And we can enlarge those areas with sustainable landscaping and provide a larger footprint for our pollinators and our different fauna. Same with the east side. They got a whole corridor now. And the big thing now is for creating nodes and corridors for our native fauna, our insects and our birds and things to move through due to fragmentation. Fragmentation over the past couple of years has been a really big problem due to development. The remaining natural areas may be too small for the birds and insects to reproduce in, and they can't go anywhere else. They can't find anywhere else. So uh, their breeding populations get smaller and smaller, and then they just cease to exist there. So it's really important for us as wild ones that we think about strategies to increase these natural areas in our communities and build corridors and build larger nodes. My vision, my hope is always when I'm talking to people, connecting with people with native plants and talk about their importance to the local ecosystem. I love doing tabling events. If we can get more volunteers for tabling events, that's great. You cannot be too new to this to volunteer for a tabling event because you'd be talking to people at your own level and they'd be talking to you. You understand, where they're at. It's a great way to connect with people. It's a great way to bring new members into our chapter. I also like witnessing the continued growth of biodiverse landscapes in every community using native plants. Um, I would one day like to go down to my street and see along the boulevard nothing but native plants, nothing but butterfly milkweed, and asters, and things like that. Um, it's it would slow people go down to my street, like some go down 40 miles an hour. We're kind of a secondary street and an emergency route, and they just fly down there. And I would bet that if everybody had a quarter full of native plants, people's going to slow down to look at that. It's not going to be the ubiquitous turf grass lawn that you've seen before. So that's my hopes. And influence this, I'm also love to influence this group more to become a social contagion by influencing others on why native plants matter. We aren't your grandmother's garden club. We're here to influence others, to be social contagion, to you don't necessarily have to proselytize to your neighbors or anything else, but a silent influencer. I'm out in my front yard during the summer quite a bit, at least once a day. And if people are walking by, I love to talk to them. All of them so far have loved what we were doing in my yard. You'll see that in a few minutes. I'd love to talk to somebody who hates it, who absolutely hates it. I haven't caught, they've been afraid to talk to me probably, but I'd love to talk to those people to find out, why they hate it, why they don't like it. And here's a bit of my history. The photo on the left was taken a year after we bought our house in 1988. And it looks just like every single other house on my street. Same with the backyard. The backyard was nothing but grass from the deck all the way back to the back fence. The previous owners had some scraggly landscape going on in the front that they didn't do much with ever. The soil was very sterile, and same with the back. The back, the only thing that was left was a few remnant rose canes along the fence line that I used to get hung up with mowing the lawn, as well as some small patches of tulips. I still have the tulips. I call them my legacy tulips. They've been there for 38 plus years. And if they've lived that long, they deserve to be there. I just work around them. We made a few changes as we were new homeowners for the first home. And I was very much into being the first guy on the block with the greenest lawn in the spring. We did some changes in the front with the landscaping. We pulled all that scraggly shrubs out, made an elevated bed. And the only thing we did wrong is that we filled it full of English ivy, petunias, and impatiens. All the standard stuff that you normally find at your local garden store. And they did quite well. Pardon me? That is me. That's my wife there. That's me watering our invasives. And that's me in the back. We're all about the same year. Our turning point was when we had this little guy in 1992. I was still very much into lawn care, but I couldn't, he was digging everywhere and rolling around in the grass and everything else. And I couldn't see letting him, he's digging holes, filling it up with water and wallowing and wading in them. And I couldn't see him coming into contact with the synthetic herbicides and fertilizers that we would typically put on the grass. So there, I converted to organic lawn care, and I went way deep down that rabbit hole. But for we have it back.
Yes, that's good.
Okay. Lessons I learned at this point was when you have little kids, move on from this. If you want to keep a turf grass lawn, move on from the synthetic fertilizers, and insecticides and herbicides. This was back in 90, from 92 on. So from then until I became a big into native plants, my lawn was all organic. So I was really feeding the soil critters at that point. I wasn't killing anything off. I was improving the soil at that point. So it was primed for native plants. My journey in the native plants started when I couldn't get hydrangeas to bloom. And I researched that, and there was no Facebook then. I was on different forums, and everybody had a different way of getting your hydrangeas to bloom in the spring. And it occurred to me, this must be a hobby for people. It was a challenge for them. And I wasn't into challenges. I wanted to plant stuff that belonged here that would bloom. So I've started researching native plants, and I started looking for like-minded organizations and people, and I came up onto Wild Ones. Back then, there were only two chapters here in Michigan. One was Ann Arbor, which is the oldest chapter, and the Oakland chapter, North Oakland, which had just started up around 2010. I looked at both websites, and the Ann Arbor chapter was looking slightly more active. So I joined them. And Livonia is about equal distance between the two. Livonia, Ann Arbor chapter is just a few minutes closer. So I joined them. Mostly I was remote because I also worked up in Southfield, and it was hard to get way out to Ann Arbor every night, monthly for regular meetings. My initial backyard projects, I bought a butterfly kit from Washtenaw Conservation District, and we thought we'd plant a hedge along our backyard. That was viburnum. And also, I was still heavily involved with Michigan State was my source of information for native plants and things. And they had a brochure on there for beneficial insects. At the time, I was sort of casually involved with vegetable gardens, so I was really interested in beneficial insects. So those were my three projects starting out. And I bought along the back fence, I have a 60-foot spread along my back fence, and I bought 21 high bush cranberries, which is viburnum. I'll, I have the Latin name in one of the slides coming up. The butterfly kit was what you would typically see in a regular butterfly kit offered. My lessons learned there. I planted that, and uh, it was a variety of plants. Some like moisture areas, some like drier areas, and so it's typically a right plant, right place thing. If I had to do it again, I kind of put those plants in the right plant, right place. As it was, I just put them all in one spot. And then being the diligent gardener I was, conventional gardener, I went back and periodically weeded. And I found out that, some of those weeds were the plants I bought. So my lessons learned is once you plant something, put a plant marker on it so you know where it's at. Um, and also right plant, right place. And here's the two diagrams. I did not really diagram my backyard. Uh, I drew that as to what I started with. The viburnum high bush cranberries, Latin name is Viburnum trilobum, and that makes an excellent hedge, an excellent screen if you want to try it. It's got nice large maple-like leaves. It has the berries that the birds are supposed to love. I didn't see any birds on them. I saw the squirrels get them all the time. Um, my next project along the left-hand margin there was the butterfly garden. And again, I got that from the Washtenaw Conservation District. And then also along the left-hand margin there is gray dogwoods, Cornus racemosa. And I bought those from Coldstream Farms up in Mason. And those are just bare root. I bought 7 of those, and they they make an excellent screen as well. And the birds love those berries. I also planted Virginia creeper around the trees, my maple tree. I had hoped that it would climb up the tree and, look nice. It didn't, not so well. Virginia creeper has very weak tendrils, and the winter weather and the squirrels periodically tore that down. Makes a great ground cover. Let's see what else. We already had we bought a serviceberry as well. Yes. Um, and that's an early bloomer, and it provides great berries for the birds. The robins chuck those out while the berries are still green. And even as they start to ripen, they're eating the green berries. It's a great thing to see. We love watching that. Lessons learned from that is planning. If I had to do it all over again, I would lay out that whole place differently. I would put a sitting area up closer to the house in the garage. Currently, the sitting area is in the very back corner by the dogwoods and the what used to be the viburnums. And that's a little long for my wife to walk, and it's a little inconvenient for her. I don't mind it. It's back in the corner, it's out of the way, but it might be a little easier for being up close to the house. Also, let's see, that's a big one. I'd also think of something else other than Virginia creeper. Um, I've been told by others that along with um, oh, I can't remember the other one. Yeah, that alone is pretty aggressive, and it is. The birds like the berries, and they deposit those all over the place. And I have Virginia creeper all through all my beds. It's not bad. It's a good ground cover, but it can create a trip hazard if it's moves across paths and things like that. So I'm, constantly tearing that out. I'm not too delicate about that because it grows back. My front yard, I started that plan in 2019 and I did lay that out. Oh, and I don't know how many species, but I have prairie dropseed along the borders. Um, Along the curb, I also have carex on the shady side. And then I have a variety of purple coneflower, lance leaf coreopsis, um, uh, prairie goldenrod, as well as yarrow. Um, and on the shady side, I have a couple different types of goldenrod, as well as blue wood aster. Up close to the house, I have again a border of prairie dropseed and carex border. And I also have showy goldenrod, which is a very nice plant to have. Um, I have a sky blue aster and purple coneflower, which is very popular with the birds, as well as Monarda fistulosa. And right up against the house, I still have some legacy landscaping, uh, some Korean viburnums and some Korean lilacs. I haven't gotten around to removing those. And my lessons learned here is I'll get into that story in a minute here. We're getting in. This is my front yard journey on 6/22. It was on a Friday. I was coming home. I was thinking of on the left-hand picture, you see a small garden, a small plot between the curb. Um, that was just some plants I got from a plan from the library. It's asters and some goldenrod in there. But I was just wanting to expand that out a foot because there was still too much grass that I didn't feel like cutting the grass around there. And there was a uh, tree service truck down the street. And so I stopped and asked him, hey, I just need about just a little bit of wood chips to spread around the outside of this area. And they said, well, we only have 3 yards. And I said, great, that's all I need. Well, they came back that evening. They dumped closer to 16 yards in my driveway. So we had to think of something really quick. So I scalped the lawn, and my wife, my son, and myself, we spread all these wood chips around. And it came out to about 7 inches throughout my entire front yard. I left that on for about 3 months. Really, you should probably leave it on an entire season, but I had a deadline in my mind. I wanted to plant seed by the fall. So I left it on until the fall. And then I seeded it in the fall in groups, according to that plan you saw. And the seeds came from Michigan Wildflower Farm, as well as Prairie Moon Nursery. And I seeded those in groups. And I was hoping the next summer that I'd be seeing, some things come up. It came up spotty. Uh, that was right at the start of the lockdown there. And I had a lot of traffic come through my yard or from the sidewalk, grandmothers walking their grandkids and parents walking their kids and things like that. Just because of the lockdown, they had to come out and do something. Um, so I had the idea of put out big flowers, and that dressed up things a little bit. And the kids liked looking at them. And I change them out periodically or change the order of them, give the kids something different to look at. But also towards the end of June, I was kind of skeptical. This is out in public view, and the things popping up are still patchy and a little sick looking from the seeds. So I went ahead and bought plugs. I bought them from Prairie Moon. I bought them from Wild Type Nursery. The plants that were part of my group, I tried to plant 3 or 4 plugs just to make it look like something more. So those are, and I also put markers on them, just so I knew where everything was. Most of these were plugs that came from Wild Type Nursery. And this was probably around, let's see, it was probably around 2018, 2019 here. My yard was part of the yard tours for Ann Arbor Wild Ones at the time. And one of the lessons learned in my design here, when I designed the front, I devoted my entire space to native plants and to the wildlife and everything. I should have probably paid more attention to cues to care, and put borders around the edges, just turf grass, if you will. Um, and also where this arrow's at, my wife last year mentioned that, hey, maybe we should keep that area clear so people get in and out of their cars. I said, yeah, that makes sense. I also have a new neighbor just to the north of me, and she has a lot of company. And, she mentioned to me the same thing. So I said, okay, that's one of my projects. That's my next 2.0 upgrade in the front yard is I got to move all that stuff. So very soon I'll probably be sending out an email to people who may want some carex. I got to divide up the carex. Also the blue wood asters, and I don't know, I'll probably be losing the coreopsis too, but no, I'm going to offer that up because I figure I got to push all that stuff back about 3 feet. On the right is people looking at everything I have, but same thing along the sidewalk. Think about putting a border on there. My biggest hassle now is people walking their dogs. They don't walk them on the sidewalks. They walk them through the plants, and the dogs are, constantly doing their business. Um, and that just makes me nuts. And it ends up being bad neighbors with people because I have to tell them to keep their dogs on the sidewalk. It probably wouldn't be as bad if I had grass. I wouldn't mind them, walking across the grass. But so borders are important for cues to care. Also in the front yard, I have included large plant markers, the signs that tell people what kind of plants they are. People have remarked that they like those. And also in one picture coming up, I have a box that holds flyers, take one sort of thing. And I created a flyer of what's going on in my yard, and I update it probably quarterly. So, they understand that, this isn't unmanaged, not managed, that there's some thought going into this. Last year, you wouldn't have been able to tell. I wasn't out in my yard very much, and things kind of went crazy. Uh, this year, I cleaned it up quite a bit, so we'll see what happens. And here's a transformation. 1988, just a standard house. And the big photo on the right is 2024. And that's and you see right in the center there on the right, that little white square, that's a take one box. I got that idea from a woman in Houston. She did the same thing down there. St. Julian's Wildscape or something like that. But she did a take one box and it looks pretty cool. So I picked that up. I got that from her. That's one of my favorite photos. Again, that's a larger version of the 2024 photo. And that's when everything was blooming. Things move around. The little gardener voice on this one side, when I go out there, I said, man, this is a mess. But my wildlife gardener says, no, 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 it's supposed to look like that. So it's a conscious struggle in me. Yeah, I got these two voices going on in my head. There's probably therapy and drugs for that, but And again, you see along the curb, all that growth going on there. A lot of that is volunteers. Um, Originally, that was supposed to be a clear area for about a foot, but things move into there. So this year, uh, the roots of the tree permitting, I'm going to clear as much of that stuff out so people can get in and out of their cars. And I could walk across there maintaining it without going in the road and getting run over. And in my backyard again, in 1988, it's just was bare. The grass is burned out. Not much going on there, not very exciting. And then in 2024, that's what it looks like now, and much more vibrant. And when I started this in the backyard, my wife just thought it was a nice hobby for me. Hey, kept me busy, kept me outside, and out of her hair. I worked IT. I was 24/7 available. So when I had free time, this is what I like to do. And yeah, she let me do it. When I moved out front, she was kind of skeptical. I had to pass a lot of things by her first. But when people started complimenting on what we were doing, and she started seeing things going on in our yard, um, hummingbirds. I don't have any coral honeysuckle, but hummingbirds were passing along the yard, and they weren't going after any flowers. They were capturing insects. They were going after the insects flying. And, that's what I tell her. Hey, it's all working. We have a ton of squirrels. We have deer. We have rabbits. Those are, I don't care about those, but the insects mostly. That's what I plant this for, because if you draw on the insects and berries for the birds, everything else comes. Last year we had two broods of black-capped chickadees in the front, and we had house wrens in the back. And the house wrens were constantly going into those dogwoods along the fence and pulling out insects for their nestlings. I didn't think there were that many insects in those dogwoods, but they just went back and forth into the dogwoods. So, that's another example that it's all working. Um, Going forward, I'm looking at the front and see what's working and what's not. Some plants are merely surviving and not thriving. And I'm looking at why they're not thriving and why this plant is. And it's coming down to, I have maple trees in my front yard, and they're literally sidewalk to driveway. The entire front yard is maple roots. So everything I plant there has to compete with those roots. And I planted everything for a dry environment because the maple trees are going to be the first to suck up all the water. So my native plants has to get that water quick because it's not going to be around long. And also the native plants, the ones that are clumpers, clump roots, they're having a hard time finding pockets between the maple roots. That's why I think they're just kind of tolerating as as my plants get close to the tree. If they find a little niche, I say, great, you're not part of the group. You weren't part of the original design there, but if you're growing, fine, I'll let you go. But I think my most successful plants out there have been plants that spread by rhizome or stolons. That would be the yarrow is quite successful. It's a good ground cover too. And that spreads readily by seed and rhizome. And also I had frost aster last year. I don't know where I got it. It just started growing, and that spread like crazy. I ended up having to pull that because it was just getting too aggressive. But that also spread by rhizome as well as seed. Zigzag goldenrod also spreads by rhizome. That's very successful on the shady side. So it's things like that. My next plan is I'm going to start removing the things that are just surviving and replace them with plants that spread by rhizome or stolons. And that's what I'm currently looking up. I'm going to plant soft landing themes around the maples. And, they're going to be the shorter plants that have rhizomes or stolons. So that's an important lesson to learn out there. Also, something I'm finding, the more I get into this, the more I learn. I just started by just wanting to plant things that bloom in Michigan, but gosh, I'm finding out, how plants compete now, how well they do in certain situations. It's just, I'm just fascinated by everything that's involved with sustainable landscaping and native plants. This year, let's see, where am I at? Oh, that's my backyard. I'm very proud of my backyard, by the way. Plants could do whatever they want back there. Nobody's looking at them. As long as they stay out, as long as I'm not tripping over them. There's even weeds there. And I don't care about the weeds anymore. I don't care, there's rabbits back there, there's deer back there that graze. I don't care about them anymore because I have enough plants back there that, hey, if the deer want to eat those asters, if the rabbits eat those asters, all right, they're going to grow back next year. And I'm okay with that. I've learned a new term, coexist, that helps the gardener in me say, okay, we can deal with this. So I coexist with the rabbits, I coexist with the deer, and I have a trail cam back there, and I see the deer and the rabbits go through at night, and the deer just literally walk right through those flowers, and they graze on anything they find. I'm never quite sure what blooms from one year to the next. The pond went in 2023, and that was an inspiration I got from the UK. The people over there, they do wildlife gardening as well. They're big into wildlife gardening, but they have postage stamp sized backyards. And it seemed like every photo I saw, they had a little pond in there. And they don't have pumps, they don't have filters. They just have that pond. And they love the toads, they love the frogs, they love those little spiny hedgehogs. You know, they love all that stuff. And I thought, okay, no pumps, no filters, not very expensive. I want that. So I put a pond in. There's no fish in there. I grow up for the water plants and for the insects. I tried putting toads in there last year. They were growing fat, but I think the grackles came by and plucked all of them out. So I haven't seen any toads there. I'm going to try again this year. I think uh, above frogs, I think toads would be an excellent fit in there because they just use a pond for breeding, and then they would move off into the rest of my property. We've had toads around the property before, but I haven't seen them lately. So I'm going to try again. I also have towards the front, that's out of sight, water dish for the animals. I think along with native plants, and even, you have a bird bath there, having groundwater available for the animals is really important. I've been through any number of yards, and everybody has a bird bath, but it's dry. They never fill it up. And I think if you have nothing else, if you have a bird bath, or if you have a dish on the ground for water, that's the best thing you could do for the insects, for the wildlife, and everything else, is just provide them with water. During the hot summer months, they can't find it anywhere else, especially if there hasn't been any rain. There's no puddles they drink from. I don't know what they do, but they do come around. That dish on the ground is real popular with the birds. The squirrels drink from it. Deer drink from it. I just keep it clean. That's a very important lesson I learned. And I like this quote from E.O. Wilson. If all mankind were to disappear, the world would regenerate back to the rich state of equilibrium that existed 10,000 years ago. If insects were to vanish, the environment would collapse into chaos. Um, People plant for birds, they plant for pollinators. Uh, if you just plant for insects in general, everything else comes from that. Actually, everything comes from the soil. Make sure you have good soil. You'll have strong plants. You'll have good insects. Um, Grow for the insects, and everything will come after. And I like this sign. I've seen this a number of times. If something isn't eating your plants, your garden's not part of the ecosystem. You want everything in your garden and everything in your yard to be part of the ecosystem. It should be eaten by something. If your plants aren't being eaten, pull that out and replace it with something that will be eaten. Unless it's, your great grandmother's rhododendrons or something, that's okay. But as long as it's the right thing that's eating them. I mentioned before that I had a nice hedge along my back fence of viburnums. The viburnum beetle came along and totally skeletonized those over 3 years. So I had to cut those out. I now have a mixed native hedge along my backyard. I thought, okay, no more planting one species because if something goes wrong, that entire species is gone. So I planted a mixed hedge. Kind of looks ugly. Doesn't look as nice as the viburnum, but it's functional. Birds like it. There's bugs, there's pollinators in it. It's just, again, my little gardener voice in here saying, that's really ugly. But my wildlife gardener voice says, no, it's working. So, and then this is Doug Tallamy quote. If you plant it, they will come. We've allowed the alien plants to replace natives all over the country. Our native plants and our native animals and plants cannot adapt to this gross and completely unnatural manipulation of their environment in time to negate the consequences. Their only hope for a sustainable future is for us to intervene to right the wrongs that we have perpetrated. Be rehabbers in your yard. Start with a little bit. That would be my lessons learned out front. My first 2 years when, I killed off my entire lawn and planted it with natives. The first 2 years I would walk out there, I said, I bit off more than I could chew. If I had to do it again, I would tell people, just start with a 10 by 10 square and then learn how to manage that. And then you do another 10 by 10 foot square with the same stuff. And then each year, grow that out. That'd be much more manageable than what I did. Yeah, it's looking okay now, but first 2 years, not so much. And thank you very much. What I would like to know from people online and from people here in person, what are your lessons learned? What has worked for you? What have you found, mistakes you made, things like that? Let's share with each other. Yes.
Eric mentioned that use the carrot and carrot is really important.
Yes.
Kelly mentioned some of the plants that she uses and borders of violets and certain carrots. Species do really well with the traffic. Kelly also talked about how important water is when you're planning an ecosystem, especially in the winter, with suggestions for using like a heated water dish to provide unfrozen water to the ecosystem in the winter. I think that's all the comments about lessons learned that I saw. Is there anybody online who has any other comments?
You can, if you do, you can either type them in or you can raise your hand and I can, unmute you. I have to turn on the speaker in the room. We don't get feedback. Bob, are you pushing on the power button on the microphone again?
No.
Okay.
I'm not touching it. Some things that, in addition to Kelly's comments, some of my plans this summer is to document more of the insects that are in my yard, what's eating what. I'd like to know, in my plan for the front yard, I did plan for violets and wild strawberry as ground cover. The wild strawberry isn't doing so well. I think it's, again, competition with the maple roots. And it really doesn't do well in dry, sunny areas. It likes part sun with more mesic type soil. But the violets, some was eating my violets and something was skeletonizing it. The deer were kind of clipping them. I know that. I could recognize that. But something was skeletonizing the violets. So I'd like to get out there at night and really find out what's eating it. I'm hoping it's fritillaria larva. That's what I planned it for. But, I don't know. I'll have to get out there and find it.
Okay. I'll give you a second. I'm going to go ahead and use the audio in the room and turn the speaker on and turn on first. All right, Kelly, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Hi, I'm sorry. I was having a hard time hearing you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, well, thank you so much, Bob. It was a really great presentation. It was really fun to kind of see your journey and hear about, how everything went for you. And I just wanted to add, along with like the cues to care, thinking about, you can use things like fencing that I had initially put up in my front yard just so that I knew where the garden started and where the lawn ended. And I ended up actually just keeping it because it was kind of a nice, visual border for the garden. And then also some things that I was thinking about when I was doing my front yard were, obviously height, but also winter interest and paying attention to which plants die completely down to the ground and which ones don't. That, made a difference in how I think that, it presented to my neighbors. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, cues care is really important. And I go to garden walks, just standard garden walks to see what they're doing for, not necessarily for the flowers, maybe design a little bit, but also how they have garden art and garden signage and statues and things or ironworks that I like to incorporate in my yard because the link between, if a regular gardener comes in, they understand that. They might not understand the design or the flowers that I have or the plants I have, but another cues of care is garden art and the signage again.
We need to ask for questions. Can you repeat the question so that folks online can hear?
Yeah.
Okay, so I could ask you a bunch of questions because I've seen your garden. And there's like more that you could say about you have such great signage. You downplay how cute it is in that backyard, but eliminate it. My question is like, what are you doing for your native pond? I know you have some native plants in there.
Oh, yeah, that's another lesson learned.
Do you add any like that?
Um, I've been reluctant to add mosquito dunks because I have to understand if they kill more than just mosquitoes. I'm told they don't, but I need to research that a little bit. But I do monitor it for mosquito larvae, and last year I didn't find any, so that's good. Um, if I had to, it's not a big pond, and again, it has no. I put an aerator in there, so it's not, totally natural. Um, but until my plants start taking hold, and I'm going to add more plants this year, uh, to, plants will oxygenate that water and they're going to find a balance. Last year I had a bad problem with algae. That's the first couple of years from what I understand that's going to happen. So until the plants balance out with the nutrients and the oxygen, I'm going to have that. But it's kind of a good experiment for me. I love tinkering with stuff like that. But this year I will be putting in more submerged oxygenating plants. I have the water lilies that you see on the top, the white pond lilies. Um, those kind of spread on their own, which is nice. And again, I'll try adding toads, this year and see if I can get some tadpoles. So I would like to have toads in my garden. And if I had to do it over again too, I'd probably make it just 1.5 feet deep. I have one and that's 3 foot deep. And I thought that would allow insects and, frogs or whatever to hibernate. Um, but 1.5 feet deep would accommodate almost all your pond plants. You don't need them any deeper. And it would be easier to manage.
I think Brenda, she said that they had to be over 4 feet deep. Where did you get your pond plants from? Where did you put them from?
There is a place in New Hudson where Natalie, right around where Natalie lives. And it's pond, I cannot remember, but if you look up ponds in New Hudson, it's the only place. It's just a sliver along the edge of, pardon me?
They had the native.
Yeah, they have some natives. Not a lot of places have natives. Um, yes.
If you want to see if it's larva, you can use a black light at night and you'll be able to see the larva in your plants. And then, Steve Ray has a question. Can you, he might not be able to hear you, Steve, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question if you'd like.
Yep. Okay. Hey, Bob, thanks for sharing your yard. You're quite the inspiration. Can't wait for spring to come. Do you have an area that you do your winter sowing and your garden prep stuff?
Yeah, I have my winter sowing is currently on some wooden shelves I have in the back of my garage, or in the past I've also just put the jugs on pavement and just out in the open weather. They're not protected or anything. And as it comes towards spring, I check them out. If they're getting a little light, I take a watering can and sprinkle water over them. But they're all back there now.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks again for sharing.
Yeah.
Bob,
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that Professor Chip Taylor of Monarch Watch, I asked him a long time ago about the BT and mosquito dunks.
Uh-huh.
And Professor Chip Taylor said that only kills the mosquito larva.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what he had told me. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thanks, Brenda.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't want to put anything in my yard without knowing what it kills. But yeah, I would, and I think Kelly had this last year, buckets of doom. I want to create a couple buckets of doom in my yard. Has anybody heard about that? You get a 5-gallon bucket and you put green matter or even straw in it, about halfway up, fill it with water. And you can put a screen on top to protect things from falling in there and drowning. And you put a mosquito dunk in there. And Doug Tallenby calls it bucket of doom. You could Google it on the internet. But that's supposed to attract the mosquitoes. And they lay their eggs in there. And the mosquito dunk kills the larva.
Are on homegrown yet? On their way. Earlier, I think Kelly also mentioned that for folks on the east side, Doug Tallenby is going to be the speaker for the Grosse Pointe Garden Center's Legacy Seminar. In March. And yeah, she said registration for that will be opening soon and everybody's in.
That for the Wildflower Association of Michigan, WHAM?
I think it is.
I'm planning on going to that.
Yeah, he's going to be at Wham, but he will also the day before be at the Grosse Pointe Garden Center does a legacy seminar every
Okay.
year at the War Memorial, and he's their speaker there as well. So that's, I believe, on the Saturday, and then Wham is on Sunday.
Okay.
So for anyone that's, maybe couldn't make it up to Wham and they were on the east side or wanted to travel to the east side, he'll be speaking. He'll be doing 2 presentations for the Grosse Pointe Garden Center.
What was the date? Is there a date already scheduled?
I believe that's March 7th, and then Wham is on March 8th.
Hey, Bob, thanks for the great presentation. This is Derek. I remember in 2019, before I got associated with any native plant gardening, walking past your yard and wondering what the heck was going on. So I'm very glad at this point now that you got the extra dump of wood chips. It looks great.
Thank you.
And another quick note about upcoming Seeds to Community things, which they haven't been all added to the calendar yet because they just got finalized within the last couple of days. There will be 2 winter sowing workshops coming up. One is coming up very quickly now on the 24th. And also on the 14th. Both will be in Dearborn, but at different locations, one at the EIC and one at the Centennial Library. So, and thanks to Donna for being the liaison to the Centennial Library, working through that and getting the logistics for that one set up. Look up.
And Mike here in the room is suggesting any new members? Who are new members here in the room? Hey, welcome. You aren't a new member, Donna. Don't raise your hand. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Shane. I live in Detroit. I joined online last year and it checked out, but this is my first meeting in person.
Okay.
I have 2 side lots next to my house that I'm trying to get rid of the grass and plant native plants. So I'm just getting started.
Oh, very cool.
I love your presentation. It's great to learn.
I always feel like I'm getting started. Yeah, I've been doing it for 15 years. I still feel like I'm a noob.
Yeah.
There's certified stewards and certified naturalists here, and I think know more than me. But I'm always learning new stuff all the time.
Evan, the Habitat Stewardship Committee person, he did that, so you might wanna, next time he's around, talk to him about it.
Yeah.
So he can probably give you his lessons learned on his lot. And then, Bob, did you mention that Katie is also staying on as the secretary, Katie Gillis? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Online, is there any new members that'd like to introduce yourselves? No one? Shane's the only new member here?
is thing from a different chapter.
Oh, cool. What chapter?
Open.
Jean,
Yep,
Jean Firstly.
yep.
Yeah, she's awesome. She does talks and stuff.
Yep, from North Oakland.
Cool. We
So
always
she-
welcome former North Oakland members. Shane, I don't know, if you might this year or next year, you might want to be part of the yard tours. See what's going on.
Yeah, come check them out. I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're getting more people in Detroit. That's we have a lot of people on the east side, a lot of people on the west side, people up and down through Dearborn.
There's a lot of area in Detroit that could use a whole lot of stuff other than grass.
Yeah.
You got a lot of vacant lots, a lot of grass. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Evan Rosen, one of our members, and he's one of our natural area, what's his title? Habitat Stewardship. He's in Detroit and he's doing much of what you're doing with an empty lot. Anything else?
Thank you, Bob. Is that it?
Yep. Thank you very much.
For everybody's information, we had 19 online attendees throughout the course of the presentation. So,
19 online and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I got to close out the event online. So yeah, okay. 29, that's good. That's good draw.
uh,